All right, so we're gonna go ahead and create some starting sites for the Livingston Hotels and Resorts. Like I said, the sites are going to be the context with which we can manage and display content. Okay, so the content can be managed either in the site administration panel, or they could be managed and placed on a page. Okay, so let's go ahead and walk through creating some of these sites. Okay, now when we do create new sites, there is something that's worth mentioning here, and we'll explore this a little bit later as well. But sites can be generated rapidly through what are called site templates, and we'll use some of the existing site templates and even look at this a little bit more in a later chapter. Okay, site templates are essentially a set of pre-existing pages with widgets on those pages that are configured, and again, we can just rapidly create new sites. So as you can already imagine, in the future, it would probably be good for us working with Livingston here to create a site template that can be readily used for any new hotels or resorts that are added to the hotel group in the future. So again, we'll look at that a little bit later as well. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and create our first site together. I'm going to go ahead and hop over here to the platform that we started in the first video. Okay. Make sure you are logged in. If you are not already logged in, you should be logging in as the Josiah Copeland administrator or whatever other user you've created, okay, with your highly unhackable password. Okay, so we can go ahead and open up this menu here. You'll see it's this button that we can click to open and close the menu. Okay, now while we will primarily be working in the site administration panel here, okay, that's going to be this section here where we can build our content, our pages, different things along those lines. We're going to start by creating our sites in the control panel. Okay, so that will be the panel at the very top. Go ahead and click on that to open it up. Click on sites. Click on sites here under sites. Okay, so sites. And in this section, we will be able to add our new site. So we're going to start with creating a site that will be used as sort of our blogging site for Livingston. So for the Livingston Hotels and Resorts, we will have a special site called Livingston Life. And in this use case, this is based on their essentially their magazines that they had a while back. They want to digitalize that through blogs, and they want to use that as one of their primary marketing tools. Okay, so we need to have a site available so we can go in and access that and work on some of those features together later. So let's go ahead and do that here. Okay. All right, so once we're in the site section, come to the top right with me and click on the add button. All right, and for now we're going to choose blank site. It will be at the top left here. Okay. For the name, go ahead and call this Livingston Life. Not lie, Livingston Life. Okay. And go ahead and click on submit. Okay. All right. And for the description here, we can add a description, which is typically a good practice when you are working with any new resources in Liferay. Adding a description just makes it more maintainable in the future. If you have new people coming on, they'll have a sort of better idea of what each of these different resources is intended for. So that's what we can do here. Okay, so we're going to do something like the site for the Livingston Life Journal. Okay, so type something like that in there, and we can scroll all the way down and click Save. Okay, so once we've saved this, we can go ahead and open up the control panel, sites, and sites again. Okay, so once we're back here, what we're going to do is we're going to create a child site for the Livingston Hotels and Resorts called the Livingston Resort at Bali. Okay, now we can have a number of site hierarchies here if we'd like. Essentially what site hierarchies allow you to do in general is share content and even permissions throughout the site hierarchy. Okay, so in this case, just in terms of how things are organized, it's going to make the most sense that all of our hotel and resort sites are underneath the overall Livingston Hotels and Resorts sort of group site. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that here. We can come all the way to the right. Okay, for Livingston Hotels and Resorts, we're going to click Options, and you'll see an option to add child site. go ahead and choose on blank site here. And we're going to call this Livingston Resort at Bali. Very exciting, I know. And go ahead and click on submit. Okay. Again, we can add a quick description here. This will just be basically the site for Livingston's Bali location. Okay. Scroll down and click save. All right, and we'll do one more site here for us to get started. So click on the control panel, sites and sites again. All right, and this time we're going to create a site for the Livingston employees. Okay, we're going to call it Livingston Loop. All right, so everybody at Livingston can stay in the loop on the happenings of Livingston Hotels and Resorts. All right, so go ahead and click on the add button again. Okay, and this time go ahead and select the intranet site template. Okay, so again, this is just an example of using a site template that already exists in Liferay. We can go ahead and just use this. It will auto-generate some pages for us, and that'll give us a good starting point to build out our intranet. Okay, so click on intranet site. For the name, once again, we're going to call this Livingston Loop. Okay, and go ahead and check on the create default pages as private. Okay, what this does is it basically will enforce that only members can access this site. So since this is an intranet, we don't want other users who are navigating throughout Livingston to be able to access this unless they're an actual employee. Okay, so this gives us our starting point in terms of permissions for making that happen. And we can go ahead and click on submit here as well. All right, so now we have our sites available to us. All right, this will allow us to work on the default Livingston Hotels and Resorts site, and that's going to essentially be the sort of top level group site that we have. And then we'll also be able to work with one of the specific locations, the Livingston Life Journal, as well as the intranet. So these will all have some different use cases for the kinds of content they need, how the content is being displayed to the users, and that will allow us to explore how we can use some of these features together. Okay. All right, so just to recap, again, in order to manage and display our content, we need to do it on sites. Now, content on sites is going to be displayed on the pages through the use of what are called widgets. Okay, so we'll have things like a web content display widget for web content, or a blogs widget for blogs, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so we'll be able to take advantage of that as we continue on. All right. Now, site templates is something we just introduced here. They allow us to very quickly generate pages and a structure that we can work with, that we can continue to edit as we move on. Okay. So for the next section, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and talk about digital asset management. So now that we know what these assets are in Liferay, we need to look at how to organize them and sort of start the process by making sure things are as organized as possible. Okay. So we'll do that in the next chapter. So go ahead and join me in the next chapter, and we'll talk about some of that together.